Hi, I'm Uzaifa from BohriAli, and today we're going to walk you through the process of making a resin river table. This is a dining top, 7.5 feet by 3.5 feet. To make this one of a kind table, you have to go through a number of processes which need to be done precisely. Today I'll walk you through them. If done correctly, you will get a table that will last you forever and will have a brilliant finish. The wood piece came to us as one piece. These were the two live edges, and what we had to do was we cut it through the center. So these two parts are actually the center of the table, and we flip it inverse, and that's what gives us the river. We went for a blue color, and if you notice there's a hint of golden. Drawing the template on the base helped us visualize the entire table. It is always a good idea to visualize a life-size version of the table before you start. It helps you estimate the exact amount of resin that will go in and the tolerances which you are working. This gives you good control over the materials consumed in the table and subsequently the cost of it. The next step is to freeze the size of your river table. Based on the actual length you require and the wood grains that you like, draw a straight line and define one edge. Use a circular saw to cut this and the other matching edge. The width is defined by the width of the table and the breadth of the river you require in the center of the table. The average width for this particular table is about 11 inches. We wanted to ensure that the resin and hardener penetrates perfectly into the wood. We have drilled holes in the center of the edge on the inside of the resin. What is really important is to use the correct jigs and fixtures for different processes. Here you can see we have used the inbuilt rail with Bosch circular saw and used it along with the calibrated edge of the plywood to achieve a straight cut. This ensures a perfectly straight edge. The next step is to sellotape the plywood strips with glossy tape to ensure that the resin does not get stuck to it. Smooth surfaces like the sellotape will not stick to the resin and it will help it release easily. Our BohriAli tape works beautifully for resin casting and we recommend it strongly to anyone who wants to make a mold. Before you start the mold making process, it is important to make sure that both sides of the slab are leveled perfectly, else you might get an uneven table. The mold making process involves making a mold around the border of the table with plywood strips you have cut out. There are quite a few ways of doing this easier than the process shown by us here. We have nailed some nails partially into the plywood strip. This can be quite tricky with smaller strips. Once nailed halfway into the plywood, it becomes easier to nail this into the side of the wooden slab. This is an important step since the plywood strips, when nailed to the straight edge of the slab, perfectly align to it. For smaller tables and new projects, we now use 18 mm ply that stays vertical on its own, and all we have to do is screw a 6 mm screw into the joints as shown in our recent IGTV video. Once the mold strips are in place, we use neutral plus silicone to make it watertight. A simple process used in many daily applications such as window sealing, aquariums, etc. Silicone is a lifesaver. Use a gun to make a bead and then pass your finger to create a perfect leak-proof butt joint. Make sure you have used silicone generously and have plugged in every possible hole where resin might leak from. Let the silicone cure overnight and start your resin process once it has cured. The calculation of resin is an extremely crucial step before starting out with any resin project. For a river table, you need to find the average width of the river by measuring the width at different locations and then averaging it out. For this table, we had an average width of about 11 inches, according to which we got a volume of the table by multiplying it with the length and width. Based on the volume calculated, use Google to find the amount of resin required in ml to complete your project. Whatever volume you get in liters, you can convert it to kilos using a 1:1 analogy. We have used Haksons Ultra Clear Epoxy Resin and Hardener from BohriAli to make this particular table. It is the best material to use for a river table casted to a 2-inch thickness. We have used the Haksons Opaque Blue Turquoise pigment along with Haksons Azure Blue Pearl pigment in a calibrated amount in grams to achieve the correct color for every layer. It is always advisable to make a small batch of this color, try it on with the wood before pouring in a lot of resin. With temperatures prevalent in India and the ambient temperature in which the table was made, each pour was about 10 mm thick and we have poured in intervals of about 8 to 12 hours. This gave us a 2-inch thick tabletop in about 5 pours. Use a blowtorch to get rid of any bubbles that may accumulate after pouring. Make sure you move the torch quickly over the resin to avoid burning the mica pigments. It's essential to cover your work before you keep it undisturbed for curing to ensure minimal dust particles. We also use filter cloth or a chutney to filter the resin mixture before we pour it into the table to avoid dust particles from entering the table in subsequent layers. Layer by layer, we built up the river with each pour having a thickness of 10 mm. 5 pours in and we now have a totally casted river table. A big attraction in river tables is the details you can bring out by filling up cracks in seasoned wood. These cracks can be filled with complementary or contrasting colors to make a beautiful accent that adds to the central river. Here we fill the table with our Haksons special gold pigment, which is an absolute favorite within our community. This by far is one of our favorite aspects of a resin river table, and that is also why resin gives us so much flexibility to work with wood. Demolding a river table of this size is a dream. After opening up the mold, you will find a river table with a glossy surface that you will now have to level out from both sides. If you have access to a CNC machine, you can simply plane it from both sides. The other way to do it is with a router and a router sledge. This particular table was manually leveled by us using a skilled carpenter and a grinder. Moving on, polishing the table is where you get to see the fruits of your hard work. We've used the Rubio Monocoat Pure Oil for this table and we required about 50 grams for one side of the table. Monocoat polishes like Rubio and Osmo are the best products a DIYer can use to polish his furniture. The process is easy. Mix the oil with the accelerator in the correct ratio and drop a few drops based on your estimate on the table and spread it using a squeegee. All the materials required for this project are available on BohriAli.com with links in the description. Please feel free to comment below if you have any questions that need more information. Look forward to seeing you guys create fabulous one-of-a-kind river tables using BohriAli products. I hope you liked the video we have made for you today. We put out a lot of content on our Instagram and on our YouTube. Please do watch it. The primary aim of these videos and all this content is so that our customers can do more with our products. So please feel free to ask us any questions in the comments below.